afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Maryam, and I am the host of television. And as you know, I always start with, I bring on the best guest. So this is another best guest. And this brother has been working in the community for so long, and he's going to tell you about the things that he's been doing in our community, particularly for our youth. I'm going to have Al-Tariq best introduce himself. And Al-Tariq, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you have been doing over the years with your organization.
It's an honor. When you asked me to come, I said to you it was an honor because when I was a baby starting out, I was watching you give out to the community. So my name is Al-Tariq Best. As you know, I'm the CEO and founder of the HUBB Arts and Trauma Center. HUBB stands for Help Us Become Better.
And Help Us Become Better.
17 years now, like just doing the work. And I built out a center on Prince Street. You know,
Yes.
Took 9,000 square foot of dilapidated space and turned it into a safe haven.
I remember.
Some of the things that I needed when I was growing up, I just really wanted to create a space where the young people had a safe haven to come, and music saved my life. So I wanted to utilize the arts as a way of doing that. So now is, for the last 11 years, youth have been growing up in the HUBB.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember when I came in, and this is like years ago. I came, but you had a symposium. But what you had was people coming in talking about their needs and what they wanted to do.
Yes.
And young people
Yes.
were sharing their concerns and everything.
Yeah. So that's what it's really about. My Thoughts Out Loud has been like the 17-year-old program that had started out with and giving the youth a platform to talk about some of the issues that was going on, and then us using their issues as a bridge to resolution, trying to figure out how we can help them, right?
Right.
Took about 3 years to really understand that we didn't, as the adults, I didn't have all of the answers, that we had to understand what the youth were looking for by talking to them and giving them a platform to talk about what it is that they wanted, because things are different. It was different from when we were growing up, and it's different now that they're growing up. So how can we give them the answers if we don't even talk to them about where the issues lie with them? Right. So My Thoughts Out Loud it started out with you going from community to community, and now it's a central location inside the HUBB to do it.
Right, okay. So now, how, like the topics that you have for the young people, how has this process help them, because they're dealing with so much.
So much. Well, just really being able to them lead it, right? So we have a social worker there with them and trusted adults in the room, and they lead the conversation. We just kind of be like a bridge to the resolution for them. They pick the topics that they want to talk about. Of course, we encourage them, some things that really need to be talked about. Yes. But they find courage in hearing solutions from other young people or other adults. Yes. That, I really push for the adults to step back a little bit. Yes. And let the youth talk and not judge them. So I think that's really been the most important thing, that we don't judge them because they think a little different than we do, right?
That's interesting that you say that, because I've worked inside the prison system, right? And when I was working inside, the brothers and sisters would always say, I'm a good person, or I'm not a bad person. I kept saying to myself, why are they telling me that they're a good person or they're not a bad person? I didn't get it, but then I got it.
Right.
People had been judging them
right.
for what they had done.
Right. And unfortunately, most of our young people, like I'm a grown man now, like I'm 50 years old, I just turned 50, and I didn't realize, and thank you, I didn't identify with my trauma till about 6 years ago. So imagine these young people not understanding what it is, because we don't call it as it is. We don't call it a name and call it trauma, that some of the things that they've survived, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's rough, and you don't.
And they can't heal what is not revealed.
Absolutely. Reveal to heal. That's funny that we talk about that, and that's one of the things that we did in the My Thoughts Out Loud, reveal to heal. So encourage them to talk about some of the issues so that we can be able to, let's have a discussion about it. You can be vulnerable, but of course they're not going to talk about it if they don't feel safe.
Exactly.
Right? So they have to trust you to be able to open up in the first place.
Right.
Most of the young people you hear today talk about, I won't be nobody's victim again. They understand I'm a victim. What has victimized you so much that you're so scared that you hold on to that? And, that's a real question, right? Because like I said, I'm 50 years old and I'm just realizing my trauma. So now the word trauma has become this thing that people want to talk about, but let's dive a little deeper. What does it feel? Where does the hurt lie? And, in our healing circles, we say the healing is in the womb. Sometimes you have to go where it hurt in order to get some healing from it.
Right, right.
So.
When I work with women, when you're talking about the trauma, every woman that I worked with had been raped by someone in their family, or they knew someone who raped them.
That's hard.
Right? And when I came, and what I would do, like different sessions with them, they were talking about it just a little bit, and then I caught. You're still stuck there, because they haven't addressed it. What happened to them.
Right.
But as you said, they have to feel comfortable in order to address it.
Right.
Because one of the things that they said to me, the reason why they trust me was because what they said to me stayed with me.
Yes.
And
that's big.
Yeah. So they have to have the confidence, as you said, and the trust, so that they can heal themselves.
Right.
Because I recognized how stuck they were, and not only that they were stuck, but you could see the pain in their face.
Of course, and they don't know how to deal with it, right? And one of our youth problem today is they self-medicate, right?
Yes.
So they utilize these maladaptive ways to kill the pain, because I don't want to deal with the pain, right? So you do all these other things, and unfortunately, those bad decisions have repercussions on them, right? So my job is to really get them to understand where the pain is at. Let's talk about it so we can, start a recovery process.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
So it's rough though. It's rough because, so many years of being beat down or told you're nothing and won't be anything, and seeing things that you shouldn't see, right? Witnessing things that you shouldn't see, and it becomes normal, right?
Exactly. And you're bringing a couple of things, to me as I'm thinking about what you're saying, because you're talking about children and I'm speaking about adults, and they're all intertwined.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just the ages, and it seems like it's like a repeated cycle. It's going on. And
I'm glad you said that, because what we've been talking about lately is, giving your parents and them grace, right? Because they can't teach what they didn't know, right?
Yes.
They witnessed it, they dealt with it, and didn't understand it either. So they trained you in what they were taught, right? And there's some grace with that. And me and my mom just had a real deep conversation about 5 years ago, and this is when I started understanding what trauma was. As a kid, she stayed with an abusive person, right? And me and my brothers would fight this guy off, and we wake up in the next morning and he'd be there and stuff like that. And she used to always say, we teach people how to treat us by the things that we accept.
Yes.
But you taught us how to accept hurt as love. Right. So we grew up accepting women that abused us because we thought that was love. Right. And, and I gave her grace. I'm like, Mom, I'm not mad at you, because this is what you were taught, because her mother beat on my grandfather and stuff like that. So it was just like the cycle keeps going on. When do we stop it?
Wow.
When do we stop it? And having that conversation, and my mother started crying, I'm crying, because we didn't realize it till we were grown. And I told my brothers, I was like looking at their girlfriends and looking at my life and my girlfriends. I'm like, there's a pattern that's going on that's not right.
That's right.
It's not right. My mother was abused. Like he almost killed her.
That's right.
And we witnessed this, and that carried it. We were victims too.
Exactly, and that carried over.
Yes.
And wow, you're just bringing up some stuff with me because the same thing with my mother. I'm so grateful that before she passed, we were able to bond again.
Right.
Because I realized that, as you said, she was in an abusive relationship.
Right.
And she had 5 children. And back in the day, the women didn't have the type of support that they have today.
Right.
So she had to deal with that. And so when I asked her, well, why did you send me away? And her reason was because you were the strongest. I said, oh.
That's funny. She said that to me. You were the strongest. Like,
Wow.
you were the one that I knew was all right, but I wasn't all right.
Right, I wasn't all right either.
I wasn't all right.
Right.
I realize now that I'm an empath. I take on people's pain, and intrinsically is in me. So even at that age, I was feeling her pain, and she thought I was good just because I was a straight A student and stuff. No, I was suffering, and that's where music came into play for me, because that was my outlet. Writing poems and stuff, that was my outlet to be able to get it off my chest.
Okay.
But she never knew that I felt the way that I felt until, I was able to call it what it was.
Yes.
That's trauma.
Yes. And music, for me, is healing.
Absolutely.
So and that was one of the things that I used to help me feel good about myself. I thought that when I was growing up, I thought I was going to be the next Diana Ross.
Oh, please. If you could mix Tupac, Jay-Z, KRS-One, and Rakim together, that was me. I just knew that was me.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, with your young people that you work with, do you use music therapy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we call it arts therapy. We added on another S because, I didn't want to be selfish and just think that music was the only way. So we built the hub out where we had the radio broadcasting, they do the music production, they do videography, photography, and we had them doing cosmetology. We have the culinary arts. All of those things are different disciplines that you could use, but we use it as a tool to bring them in. You like it, we love it. Let's figure out what it is that you like. And while we have them, we can, get them in their comfortable zone and then talk to them about some of the issues that's going on. See, we trick them. We know what we're after. We're trying to find out, we're trying to peel back the layers and find out what's going on with them, why they're making the bad decisions that they're making. Because right now, most of the youth that I get are coming from Newark Public Schools and Newark Police Department. So I'm getting the ones that they throwing away because I believe in them, and I'm not judging you because I know what I survived. I know what I survived, and I know that you can easily make bad decisions because I hung around with the bad dudes, right? I hung around with the ones that was making bad decisions, but I also seen their families. Right. I didn't know then, I know now, so I'm able to utilize what I know now and the experience through all that process to be able to say, you can't throw them away. You gotta love on them. You gotta show them, because I was that kid that thought that nobody cared, even though I felt like my mother cared. She accepted this guy to beat on her. Even my father beat on my mom. So you accepted this abusive behavior. And for so long, I thought that that's how love was supposed to be.
Because that's probably what she thought love was
supposed
to be. Yeah, because I think my mother felt the same way because she loved him until the day he died.
That's what she was taught.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what she was taught.
But you know what it taught me? Seeing that, my father beating my mother and everything, it taught me that would never happen to me.
Absolutely.
I would never have that problem.
Listen, I'm that way, and I'm it's to a fault sometimes because I don't mind my business. When I see it going on and even the street, I jump in because it touches something in me to see, a woman being treated as such, and I've been told many times you got to mind your business because, but I can't. I can't just mind my business. No, it's our business, because that affects our community.
And it affects relationships.
Absolutely.
And that is key because I remember when I did a lecture on domestic violence, the guys who were in there, they said that it's not just the men, the women are also doing the same thing. I said, so why don't you guys say something? And of course they would say, we can't do that, we're men.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but if you're being abused by someone,
you're not thinking that it's abuse though.
Yeah, right, right. You know,
those are the things, and it's masculine. Like, oh no, I can't tell nobody that.
Yeah, right. Like I said, and how I knew it was affecting them, because when I would talk about certain things, I would see tears well up in their eyes.
Yeah.
And so I knew that they had been abused.
Yeah, I was in a very abusive relationship with a woman, and because, you know, I was open about talking about how I felt about, you know, domestic violence, they took advantage of it, you know, and she knew I would never put my hands on her.
Right.
But she put her hands on me, you know, several times, and I would grab her and throw her somewhere, but I would never put my hands like on her, and it was just like bad. And it wasn't until, you know, like she pulled a gun out on me, and I was done. I was like, okay, you know, my life could have been ended just like that. And I realized, like, that's not love. It's not love.
Right.
You know.
No, it's not.
It's not love.
No, because love is not supposed to be painful.
No. Yeah. Unfortunately, so many of us are, you know, blinded with the fact that that is love, and we're taught that. So we grow up and seeing it, and that's what we, you know, these relationships are based around, you know, a false identity of love, right?
Yeah, but if love hurts, you know, if it doesn't make you feel good, that should tell you that there's something wrong with it.
Right, it should.
Yeah.
It should tell you that, and you know, until you wise enough like us now to be able to say no.
Right.
You got to unlearn some things, you know, because
that is true.
All I've been taught is this. So until I unlearn that, you know, it's just a pattern that we got to break, and that's why it's so important for us to be able to, you know, open up our doors and open up the arms to these young people and love on them, so that they don't grow up and do the same thing all over again.
Yeah, because a lot of them are going to homes that are abusive.
Yeah.
You know. So I want to ask you this question then. Since you deal with trauma, do you think it's okay for a man to cry?
Of course. I cry, like, because for so long I wouldn't, right? Because I thought, I heard so many times, a man ain't supposed to cry, man ain't supposed to cry, man ain't supposed to cry. Why? It's an emotion, right? But because we was taught that, we kind of hold it back, and what happens is that all of that build up, and it turns into a different way, right? It turns into anger because you never released, right? And now it comes out totally different, right? The yelling and screaming and stuff like that, you know, and not to put my, I won't say names, but somebody else would never put their hands on my mother, but they yell and scream.
Yeah.
You know, and it was because of what, right, it's still abuse. It's still abuse.
Right. Sometimes that could be the worst kind.
Right, because that stick.
Yeah.
Right? While the wounds heal up, that stay there. You're a constant reminder. You can't unsee things, you can't unlearn the things that happen, can't unhear the things, right? You know, that can really tear you down inside. And if you already grew up in a situation where somebody beat you down verbally, now somebody that you're supposed to love, or somebody that says that they love you, is now beating you down even more.
Right. But how are you able to differentiate what is love?
Right. So this a lot of teaching needs to go on, right? You know, we can't be scared to, you know, tell it like it is, you know, and, you know, paint the picture.
Yeah,
paint the picture.
Everything needs to be exposed.
No, we have to. Exposure is everything.
Exactly.
Experiencing things and exposure is everything to me. Like we say, entertain, educate, and empower, because I don't believe you can't do one alone, right? To me, with the hub is entertain them, utilizing things to draw them in. Right, whatever type of incentives, what they like, you utilize that to bring them in. Once you have them in, you can educate them. Right? Yes. You can do all of those things, but in that process is also a responsibility of yours to start empowering them. And how do you empower them? By peeling back some of the layers, because what they're walking around with, that hurt is going to hurt somebody else. Now,
yes.
Most people say hurt people, but I don't let them stay there.
Yes.
Hurt people, yes. But healed people and healing people can heal people. Right? So I'm always pushing somebody to say, like, you know, I'm not healed all the way. I'm still healing. Still healing. But that doesn't stop me from going out there and trying to, if I see something wrong and I know that it hurt me and I see that happen, you know, it's my job and my responsibility to say that, you know, and if I don't, then I'm doing a disservice to these young people or to anybody at that moment.
Yes.
Yeah, so
tell us something about yourself.
What about? There's so many avenues about myself. Yeah. Which way we want to go?
That's up to you. What made you want to start the Hub?
This is a funny story. And who knew that I would be doing all of this work now? But 17 years ago, you know, I love Newark. Born and raised in Newark, I'll fight for Newark, right? You know, it was just crazy. But my girlfriend, my kid's mother is from Rawway. So it's different. You know, Rawway is different from Newark. And she would always talk about how bad Newark was. It got to the point when we had our children, our boys, she wouldn't let me bring our children to Newark. So there was this one day that I convinced her to allow me to bring them to a cookout. Lo and behold, I'm coming across Bergen right before you get to Clinton Avenue. And we're like 3 cars from the light. And right there on the right-hand side, there's townhouses over there. And these guys was beating up on this other guy. I'm talking about blood everywhere. They beating this guy up, and my son's watching this whole thing. Like, it felt like an eternity that we was at the stoplight. Right. So my 14-year-old son says, Dad, he got a gun. So now I'm panicking. I'm just trying to get my sons out of harm's way. I swerved in front of the 2 cars that was in front of me, got past the light at Clinton Avenue. The police station wasn't there at that time. It was on Bigelow. I seen a cop coming out of the from Bigelow, and I said to him, you know, they getting ready to kill this guy down the street. So he made this big U-turn, and as he made the U-turn, we heard a gunshot. So something inside of me snapped. I start yelling and screaming at my sons, don't ever let me catch you in these streets. You see what just happened, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm embarrassed that they seen exactly what their mother was talking about, right? So I'm embarrassed. In the midst of my ranting and raving, my 14-year-old son says to me, Dad, you always talk about he's shaking his head and everything. You always talk about being part of the solution, not the problem. What are you doing about it? And he shut me up. I felt like my son had just called me a hypocrite and all these things, and it was like a knife stabbing at me, because here it is, I'm talking about it, but I wasn't doing nothing. I'm in the music business, I'm chasing my dreams, trying to be a father, but I'm not doing nothing for the community. And us as parents should be doing something for the community. And from the mouths of babies changed my life forever, because him making that statement and me not having the answer changed my life. I had vowed to him, once we got to the cookout, we was only going to 9. We got to the cookout, I apologized for yelling and screaming to him, and I said to him at that point, you will never get an opportunity to ask me that question and I not have the answer. And I started a nonprofit. I didn't know what I was doing, how I was doing it. I just knew I wanted to help and serve. I never wanted to be in a position where my sons asked me, what was I doing for my community, and I not have an answer, because I made a promise to him. Look at it, 17 years later. Like, I got awarded for the first time in 2009. Okay. And I brought my son on stage. He never knew that that's why I started the organization. And I told the story when I was doing 17 at that time. Wow. And he crying.
Oh, because he remembered.
He remembered. He's traumatized today. Today, he will not come to Newark. He's still traumatized today. Tried to get him help, they will not come to Newark. So it's real, right? No, it is real. And it stays in his head. He sees the guys beating on the guys. He sees the blood. He sees the gun, you know, so as much as I try to get him help. But the funny part about the story is that he does community work out in Hamilton.
Okay.
Like now he's living out in Hamilton. He cares about the community and stuff.
Right.
So it's like we made a difference. He says, Dad, I love you for doing the work that you're doing. I never knew it was because of what I said, but I'm so proud of you. It changed my life.
Okay, so that changed your life out of the mouths of a baby.
From the mouths of babies.
And that always happens when children say those things.
Right.
Have you ever been incarcerated?
Let me tell you, 4 days, and it was the worst 4 days of my life.
We
And
live in America, so we've been incarcerated, but I'm talking about inside. So did that experience help you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It taught me so much to what I wasn't going to do ever again, right?
Okay.
It made me understand just how messed up the system was, like, and
what it's doing.
And what it's doing, right?
Not just the prison system, but the education system.
All of it,
all
right?
The systems, yes.
It was a game changer.
Okay, so now I've been given a signal that we're winding things up. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close
I just want to say thank you for having a platform like this for young people that admire you, right? That you were a beacon of light that guided me, when I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to see what an example of goodness looked like, and you were that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I'm so happy for what you're doing for our children, because in Newark, we need this.
Absolutely.
And my name is Maryam Bey, and I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank our great guest, Mr. Al-Tariq Best, for being with us today. Have a wonderful day.